Hello, and welcome to the Running Hook Podcast, hosted by Alex Burr, a member of the Running Hook Podcast Network. I'll lock it in, and I think we'll use that to transition to Scott Brooks' old team, the Thunder. So, Will, I'll start with you. Did the Thunder even get a percentage chance to win the championship, or even make it out of the West?
No, I think they're going to be a stepping stone. CP3 is going to be crying again. Never going to win a ring. That's a take. But I don't think CP3 is ever going to find a team, ever going to win a ring, and definitely not this year. Although the Thunder have been a bit respectable, like you can't hate on them. Did better, I think we expected. I just don't see them, especially in a playoff situation, being able to kind of push through. But
the Thunder remind me of the 17-18 Pacers, Victor's first year, because they have the alpha. They have the clear alpha, and then they have a great supporting cast. So, and a solid coach. Mm-hmm. I know Billy Donovan gets shit on a lot, mostly for 2016, but I think he's a good coach. I don't know. I'm not sure he should have left Florida, but he's a good coach. Ironic, him going back to Orlando.
Yeah, hey.
Snubbed the Magic way back when, but I wonder how that's going to go.
That's a callback.
I don't think you'll be seeing him out in public that much. I don't think he'll show his face out. But, I like the Thunder. They're a fun team. And that's about all I can say for them. They're a fun team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we need to talk much more about the Thunder. I guess just real quick from both of you, I'll start with Will on this. Do you think that they'd have better chances if they weren't starting Terrence Ferguson at their small forward?
No, Terrence, he's a defensive showstopper. Okay?
Oh, go stop!
Hey, he's a good fit. He's a good fit, Zach. You ever heard of a role player?
Yeah, I have. You ever heard of a bench guy?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think they had much of a chance, Zach, no matter who they started.
If they started Glenn Robinson III at the 3, how much better would they be?
Not that much of a difference.
He's significantly better than their small forward rotation now.
It's just a shame Robertson is hurt.
Robinson an upgrade. In what world is Glenn Robinson III an upgrade? That's all I'm saying.
Look at the Thunder small forward situation and tell me that he isn't.
It's just a shame Andre Robertson's hurt because he would really help them. I don't know.
Yeah, that was one of the first podcasts I ever did. We did the rewatch of the game where Steph Curry hit that long 3. Zach and I did. That was one of the first ones that we ever did.
Yeah.
And that was, you posed the question then. It's been 2 months, and the question still hasn't been answered.
What the hell's wrong with him? Where is he? I'm starting to think he's in witness protection or something because he must have witnessed some kind of crime and ratted on some guys, and now he's in witness protection because I don't know where he is. I haven't heard anything about him in months. I don't know where he is.
And I think we're done with the Thunder if we're already on where the hell is Andre Robertson. So moving on to the next team, it's the Miami Heat. So Miami Heat, a little bit of a divisive topic. Will, I'm going to start with you because I know you have some Heat opinions. What % chance are you giving the Heat?
I give the Heat a 4. I bumped it down a little bit after reevaluating, even with the 76ers. I like what's going on down in Miami. It's kind of another one of those situations. It's like I'm not sure if it's ready for this year. But the Heat are a team that I think, given the right circumstances, given, they kind of like we mentioned before, they can motivate themselves. They have that kind of, Jimmy Butler, is enough of a motivator alone, I think, for that team. So I think they'll be able to find some motivation and they might be able to stun some people to an extent. I think, and a lot of these opinions of mine are based on the fact that I think the the East is a lot more up from grabs. I think a lot of people have the Bucks locking it down. Fairly so, but I think at least in this playoff series thing that we got going on, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a little surprise go on. And I think that if any team was able to do that in the East, at least, I think the Heat kind of have the willpower and the talent to do it. You know, I like Jimmy. I think Jimmy's got always playing with the chip on his shoulder. Bam. You know, and I think the Heat could surprise some people. Are they going to be able to pull it off? I don't expect to see it happen, but you know, especially I don't know. I rank them probably even with the Raptors. I'm not as high on the Raptors as everyone, but you know, and the thing is like, are the Bucks as good as we all think they are? And you know, and is someone going to be able to touch them at least? And I don't know. I like the Heat's chances a bit more.
I think the Heat are a cute little story. They're a nice little feel-good story for the kids, but they're not doing anything. Second round max. Look, JD Hall, I know you're listening. I know you're going to come at my throat. What has Jimmy Butler done in the playoffs his whole career? What has he done? Paul George has done more in the playoffs than Jimmy Butler.
Oh. Coming from Griffith, that's a shot.
He has. Paul George has. It's a fact.
That is not true.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
He has.
Yes.
That is not true.
Yes, it is a fact. It's a fact, AB. I hate to come at you as you're the host, but it's a fact.
Jimmy Butler last playoffs. Jimmy Butler almost led them over the NBA champions. Kawhi happened is what happened.
What about when he was on the Bulls and the Timberwolves? What about that?
Okay, the Timberwolves, they were only good when he was on the team. He got hurt. They were the 4th seed before he got hurt. Then he got hurt and they fell to 8, and they played the Warriors in the first round. Or did they play the Rockets? Either or. Both of those teams the year that Jimmy was there were way better than the Timberwolves were. I mean, they were. If you just go look at that team was so poorly thrown together. Like, wasn't that team like Jeff Teague, Jimmy Butler, like Taj Gibson, Karl Anthony Towns, Wiggins? Like, God, that team is just like no thought to fit or balance or whatever. And then the Bulls, if LeBron hadn't overtaken Blatt's authority as coach, we probably would have won that series. 2015. If LeBron didn't look at Blatt like this fucking guy, we would have won that series.
Look, they're a cute story.
Calling it.
They're a cute story. I'm not buying into all the Heat hype. I'm not really sure where it's coming from. They haven't done anything since LeBron left. I'm not buying it. Not buying it. Miss me on the Heat. Miss me on the Heat.
The only reason I was impassioned there is because you came at my Bulls. You know, any Bulls coming out before 2015, you're gonna have to hear from me. But in all seriousness, I kind of agree with Zach. I'm more on the Zach end of things than I am on the Will. I think I'm a little in between, but I'm closer to Zach than I am to Will. I think the Heat, they have a real solid shot, right? Like Bam shut down Giannis the last time they played. Spo is one of the best coaches in the league, like him or not. But
yeah, he is.
My contention, if you go listen to the podcast I did on All Defense with Caleb Lynn, our friend, I pointed out the Heat have no reliable defenders other than Bam and Jimmy. Go look at their team's defenders. Kelly Olynyk is their backup center. Kelly Olynyk. And like Will, we were talking about it earlier. My point is, do you trust Kendrick Nunn or Goran Dragic to stop like any guard? Like anyone?
No.
Like, that's my contention, right? Like Robinson's they're not bad team defenders, right? But isolation? Do you trust? Like, who are they gonna stick on? Hell, Dinwiddie, they wouldn't play the Nets, but like, they wouldn't have anyone to guard Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie would light them up. That's my contention with the Heat. I think that they're a real like cute story. I just think that the team itself, it's lacking. They need like one more piece. If they get a guard defender like that's capable, hell, if George Hill is a free agent, I would tell them to get George Hill. That would be a great pickup for their team. You don't like it, Zach, because you're a homer, but admit it, you hate it because it's a good fit.
Yeah. They gave up way too much for Iguodala. I mean, I think they were. Yes. I don't know. I don't know if I'm alone in this. I think Iguodala is damn near washed. I mean, I don't think he's really made that much of a difference for them. I don't know why they gave up Winslow for him. Winslow and God, I'm sure there was something else in there. At least they got Jay Crowder back. Jay Crowder's solid. But what is Iguodala doing? What's he going to add for you? He doesn't score. He's not a really good three-point shooter. Like, I don't know what he adds. His defense is average at this point. He's an all-time perimeter defender, but those days are
not
gone,
this season.
Man. Those days are gone.
He was drafted in 2004.
Yeah. He played with AI on the Sixers. Like, those days are gone, man.
He did play with AI on the Sixers.
Sure, Lou will.
Holy shit. He's been in the league. Yeah, Lou. Those like 2010 Sixers teams, that's like a really fun roster to look at. Like Drew Holiday, Evan Turner, Thaddeus Young, Iguodala. You just like look at those teams. You're like, oh my gosh, this is like the most this is the team with the most like good role players I've ever seen.
Doug Collins.
I think the Heat have an interesting case. I think definitely second round is where I see them peaking. I don't know. Will, do you see a whole lot of scenarios where they make it past the second round even?
That's going to be their challenge. I think their ceiling this year is going to be the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they probably are definitely going to make it into the second round. But I think that's where, like I said, the line is drawn. Like, are you able to kind of challenge some of these teams that are winning it, and then maybe, like you said, add a guard, and then next year they got a good core plus a free agent. Maybe they could do something. But I don't know, the Bucks, even the Celtics to an extent, and the Raptors. If you play one of those teams, I don't know, it's gonna be a toss up. But I think I like their chances of making it out of the first round, no doubt.
Will, you think the Heat can beat the Raptors or the Bucks?
I think they could have a better chance of beating the Raptors. The Bucks, I like Bam. I mean, I like Bam on Giannis. And I like me and AB were kind of talking about before. Then is Bledsoe going to be able to win it for you?
No.
Win a 7-game series.
No.
And I know Giannis isn't going to get shut down the whole game, but I mean, is there a better matchup in the Eastern Conference against them? So
I wouldn't say so.
Right.
Maybe Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons could guard Giannis, but I don't think we've seen that enough. And I think that would be a real interesting look. But I think now's the time to move on to our next team. I don't think we have to spend a whole lot of time on these guys because they're missing a really key piece. It's the Utah Jazz. They're missing Bojan Bogdanovic. Who would have thought a year ago I was going to say Bojan Bogdanovic, key piece for the Utah Jazz?
No shit.
But he showed out. He was playing really great this year. I personally have them at a 0. I don't think they're going to make it out of the first round. I'll start with you, Zach. You think the Jazz can make it out of the first round?
No, especially if they play the Rockets. I mean, I think the last 2 years they've been knocked out by the Rockets, so I don't see that. They're not going to beat the Nuggets. They're not going to. I think they would have a tough time with the Mavericks, if I'm being honest. I just don't. I don't see it. They need a second guy. There's no clear-cut second guy. And I don't know if Mitchell can be the first guy even. So maybe if he had a really good sidekick, they could make it work. Mike Conley he hasn't been what they thought he'd be. I think for that team to be as good as it can be, Mitchell's got to be the main ball handler. I just don't. I like Joe Ingles. but can he be one of your? What does it say when Joe Ingles is one of your top 3 guys? You know.
Good point.
And Bogdanovich, he's a
I like him,
20-point
but
guy.
like you said, Bogdanovich with him. We're talking about them. Like with Bogdanovich, we're like, okay, can they make a little bit magic happen? But without him, it's like, yikes. Like you said, I don't see him getting out of the first round. And that's just how good the West is. Like a piece, like, let's not give Bogdanovich too much hype, but let's still give him his flowers where it's due. I mean, he's a good fit on that team, and just losing even a role player, 20 point per game, big scorer like that kind of takes you out of contention at completely almost with the West. And so that's just, I don't know. I think that's a compliment to how good the teams are to an extent.
Yeah, I was surprised last summer when they got Bogdanovich. Everybody on NBA Twitter was going crazy. I was like, well, hang on a sec. I watched this guy for 2 years. He's not going to make you a contender. Like, it's just not. But I think it's a big loss for him. He was a 20-point guy for him in the West, so it's a big loss.
And I don't think I have really anything else to add on the Jazz. Sorry guys, but I think your team is fucked this time around. Maybe try again next year. But
that's a quote.
I think we're just gonna we're just gonna move on to the Nuggets, the Denver Nuggets. This is where things start to get interesting. Now we're in the top 6 teams in the league. By record, I obviously think the Rockets are better than the Nuggets, but you can't really count the Nuggets out. So, Will, I'm going to start with you. What % chance did you give the Nuggets?
Yeah, I give them in the 3 to 4 area. Like you said, I think the Rockets are better. The standings don't show it. Jokic is Jokic, and you get what you get from him. But like beyond that, it's like where else? If you could shut down Jokic and if you can kind of contain him to an extent, where it's like, can they do anything else beyond that? And I don't, especially, and we talked about this before in the playoffs and setting. It's going to be a completely different ball game, not only due to the fans, but due to just the playoff setting. Normally, fouls kind of get let go by a bit more, and I think that kind of benefits like the Clippers and the Rockets and the Lakers. I see them winning. I mean, I think it'd be shocking if they lost in the first round, but now when you get to the second round, I wouldn't see them moving past the second round, especially if they have to face one of the top 2 seeds. So,
well, I think if you look at last year, these guys came as close as you can come to going to the conference finals. And Jokic and Murray really proved they can play in the playoffs. Especially Murray. I was really impressed by him last year. Like you said, Will, you know what Jokic is going to do. That guy, he's probably my pick for the All-NBA first team center. So they got good coaching. They just needed that third guy. I don't know if it's Millsap. I don't think it's Gary Harris. Will Barton maybe. But I was really impressed by what Murray did last playoffs. So I think they've got the 2 guys they can count on. I really just think it's a matter of who they play, especially in the second round.
Yeah, the Nuggets, I'll give them like a 1% chance. They just don't have any wing depth that can guard LeBron or Kawhi, let alone Paul George. I know, Zach, you're not a big Paul George guy, but if they don't have anyone that you can trust to guard Kawhi, they're not going to be able to guard Paul George. Yeah. Like Gary Harris is like, a good player, but he's 6'4". Paul George is 6'9". That's just, that difference is like, I don't care how long your wingspan is. Sometimes it's just too immeasurable to make up.
You're looking at
the problem with and Torrey Craig is a good defender, but you don't trust Torrey Craig on offense. That's the problem with the playoffs. You have to have guys that can guard on one end that you can trust to stay on the court, right? Otherwise you see a bunch of Tony Allens playing. That's why. Why you just need a guy that can make threes and can defend, and they just don't have that right now. Craig is fine, right? Torrey Craig is a fine player. He's their 8th man. You're not going to play your 8th man a bunch of minutes trying to stop Kawhi or LeBron. And that's just not going to happen. And I think that the Nuggets, if they get another guard, right? Like if they get like a Bradley Beal or something like that, Bradley Beal is what they should be shooting for. That makes them, to me, that makes them like on offense. Oh my God, that makes them a juggernaut.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Beal's attainable for them. And frankly, they just got to try their best. I personally would try to move Porter Jr. for Beal. I would just say, here's Michael Porter Jr. You got all this potential.
Mm-hmm.
You can have Gary Harris, good player. But you just got to roll with the punches and, try your best. I don't think, like last year when they played Portland, they had a matchup advantage because Portland also had no wings.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, it played to their favor. I think that's the real reason why that series went 7 games. I think if they played who did Portland play in the first round? I don't even remember the playoff matchups last year, but let's just say they played Utah in the second round. They lose. They lose if they play Utah in the second round as well. That's just the way the matchups work. The matchups fell in their favor, but they still lost. So to me, I don't think they're ready for the conference finals yet. They just need one more piece. If they can get that piece, we have yet to see. But Zach, where did you have the Nuggets on yours before I move on to the Celtics?
Yeah, I had the Nuggets 6. I had them ahead of the Jazz. And I think they need a guy like Ariza or Bob Mute.
Mm-hmm.
They need like a 3-and-D guy because they really don't have one. And Wizards, I don't think they're going to get rid of Beal because I think they're in this mindset, well, when John Wall comes back, we'll be a playoff team again. So I just don't think they're going to, especially I'm pretty sure they just signed Beal to a contract, I think. So I don't think getting Beal would be tough as hell. But the Nuggets just need a really good perimeter defender because they don't have one.
The problem is those guys are few and far between.
Yeah.
But we'll move on now. I think this is where the real cream of the crop is. I think the top 5 teams in the league. Will obviously doesn't agree with the Raptors, but I think that these are the clearly 5 best teams in the league. And we're going to start with the Celtics. So, Will, what % chance did you give the Celtics to win the championship?
I gave them a 10% chance just because I guess legitimately they probably have the best chance, in my opinion, to make it out of the East other than the Bucks. I like Kemba, and Brad Stevens is a great coach. They got a good core, but I think the way that they are going to be able to extend their playoff dreams, at least this year, is going to be Jason Tatum, based on how he does. If he could, I don't know, pick up not necessarily the slack, but like in those moments, is it going to be Kemba? Is it going to be? And if the Celtics want to move with him as their future, I think this is going to be a good point to start for Jason Tatum to kind of like show that he's that guy there for the foreseeable. I think we all can agree that he probably is, but I think if he wants to start making a name with himself to get on the hierarchy of NBA players, I think this is his chance to show it. And so, if there's going to be a team to beat the Bucks in the East, I think the Celtics personally have the best chance. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Kemba, we haven't seen him much in the playoffs. I think Tatum almost has more experience game-wise than him. So, that's kind of a bit of a wild card. But, they're well-coached team. So I think they should be at least consistent more than some of the others. So.
Yeah, even though Kyrie held them back the last couple of years, they got some solid playoff experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, as young as Tatum and Brown are, they've been to the playoffs every year they've been in the league. So,
mm-hmm.
And we know Tatum can play in the playoffs. I mean, we saw what he did a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. He was the best player on a team that damn near made the finals.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I Kemba, he's only made the playoffs twice, I think, but he doesn't strike me as a guy who would be a bust in the playoffs. And Gordon Hayward, he's pretty good in the playoffs as well. Brad Stevens is a fucking genius in the playoffs. So
mm-hmm.
The problem with them is the same problem it's been the whole year. The big man. Yeah. I don't know who their big man is. I mean, Cantor is a total non-factor on defense. You might as well put a fucking scarecrow out there on defense because it's just that might be better. But Daniel Tice, he's fine. He's fine. I guess he's a stretch 5, but it's Daniel Tice. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Grant Williams does. He's been pretty big for them this year. But I'm kind of with you, Will. I could see them. I don't know if they're going to make the finals or not, but I think if any team's going to beat the Bucks, I like how the Celtics match up with them.
So I was doing the all defense pod. We're recording this on the 30th. I did the all defense pod with Caleb yesterday. And he posited a theory. I'm curious to see how you guys feel. I'll start with Will on this. He posited a theory that the Celtics should try playing your boy Marcus Smart at center.
That'd be interesting. I don't know how well that'd work necessarily. I think he's a scrappy guy. I guess he'd fit, but I mean, I think that's a bit too much. Like, I think that's a level too much. And of course that comes from Caleb Lynn, because Caleb Lynn loves going out there with that stuff. But I'm gonna have to see what Caleb Lynn's on if he's saying that. I mean, for a viable strategy in the playoffs, if you're putting Marcus Smart there and at the center position, you could probably just book yourself a one-way ticket right out of Disneyland. So if that's what they want to do, go ahead.
Come on, Caleb. That's low ball. That's low ball, Caleb. That's bad. That's so bad. Marcus Smart at center? What? Come on. What? Like, the Clippers tried that with Patrick Beverley last year, and as I recall, people were saying KD was the best player in the league after that series.
It's true.
So
It's true.
I don't see it working. I like Marcus Smart. I love him. I'm not seeing it, man. I'm not seeing it.
I was a little lighter on him than you guys were. I'll say that much. I was a little lighter on it, but I think we all came to the same conclusion. I think it just is like, it's an interesting theory because he's definitely got the weights to hold his own against some centers, but not all. So I think, and plus it's not like he's got some like Draymond like wingspan where he's 6'3", but his wingspan is like 7 feet. You know, it's like, it's a normal sized wingspan up for what I understand, or not normal size, but long for a small guard, but he's only 6'3". So I think it'd be an interesting proposition, but really, what are you going to do? You know, the Celtics, I think that they're a candidate to pick up Tristan Thompson in the offseason. I think this is the logical landing spot for him because he's a real versatile center. It'll fit. It'll kind of be like, a way worse version of Horford in their system where he's just really smart and athletic. Obviously not on offense because it would be insulting to Al Horford if I compared him to Tristan Thompson on offense. But it just is like, I think that they need a big guy like that. But I think that their chances this year, Zach, you brought up the playoff experience for the guys, and that's so true. And like, I think that those young guys, those young wings in particular, they're going to be like, because Tatum was taking a huge step during the season. He's averaging almost 24 points a game when the season ended. He's, his shot creation is great. He's turning into an alpha male as we speak. He's borderline top 10 at this point in the league. And it just is like, it'll be curious to see how he elevates them. But I think now's a good time to move on. I think we're going to be talking about this team a lot because this team, okay, I gave the Celtics a 5% chance. I forgot to say that. I give the Celtics a 5% chance just because I think the top 3 in the league are superior. And this next team had a worse record than the Raptors, but make no mistake, I think that they're one of the 3 favorites, and that's the Los Angeles Clippers. So, Zach, I'll start with you. Where did you have the Clippers ranked? I think this is where we get to the meat of the discussion.
Yeah, I had the Clippers ranked number 2. Simply because, I know there was some hating on Doc Rivers in our GM. I'm not sure where that was coming from. But I think Kawhi's the best player in the league. No offense, Will. No offense. Actually, yeah, offense. Okay. Lots of offense.
Absolutely taken.
The only thing that concerns me is Paul George. I mean, I don't know, man. He hasn't won a series since 2014. So.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Zach.
I didn't realize it'd been.
Yeah.
I
just didn't realize it'd been that long.
Yeah, I mean, that you're right. I'm right there with you. I think every point that you made is correct, especially once we get into the playoffs. We'll have to see who does better, but I think Kawhi kind of has a grip on the crown, at least for right now. Now, playoff LeBron comes back in action. We'll see kind of how that goes. But again, that I have him second. I gave him about a 15% chance or 18% chance. Sorry, but I think you're right about the Paul George. The thing with LeBron is, okay, if Kawhi's a bit better than LeBron, just a bit, then yeah, that they're still kind of stack up. But then I think when you look at their second, the Robins, you look at Anthony Davis, and I think that's just a better fit than Paul George, especially once you get in the playoffs. Now, Anthony Davis hasn't done anything in the playoffs to make me say that, but kind of going along with Zach's point again, Paul George's playoff pass isn't phenomenal. And I think the fit is just more obvious with the Lakers compared to the Clippers. And so I have them bumped up. I got them at second. And that's just with me. I think the team that comes out of the West has the best chance of making or winning the finals. And we'll get into the Bucks a bit later. But like you said, Doc Rivers, they got a good team. Is it going to be enough to win it all? I think they have a good chance. But again, like I mentioned, how can Paul George kind of raise that team to the level that they need to be? Because I think there's no doubt that Kawhi will. And so can Kawhi alone with that team do it? Probably not. And so we'll see what Paul George does, especially without any fans. I feel like if there's any guy that I'd like to see watch without any fans, it'd be Paul George. What's he gonna do? I don't know. He's a wild card in every other way. So what's he gonna do? But I like the Clippers. I give him the second best chance of winning it all.
Here's something else you can lock in. Lou Williams will be the Clippers' second leading scorer in the playoffs.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I like that take. I love that take.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So actually, that kind of leads me to another question. So I have the Clippers as the favorites. Okay. I personally think that they're the favorites. I gave them a 25% chance to win the championship. Yep. I think that they're heavy favorites, and here's why. I know you guys aren't. I know in terms of like Paul George fans, I probably picked the two lowest people on that scale. I mean, Bryce might give you guys a run for your guys' money, but I just think that what you need in the playoffs are wings. And the Clippers have three, like one of the best wing rotations in the league. They have Kawhi, they have Paul George, and they have Marcus Morris. And Marcus Morris, I think people forget that he went there at the deadline, but in New York, Marcus Morris was by far the best. Like, he had the best 3-point percentage in the league while he was in New York. He was shooting 46% from three. So if he can keep that up with his usual defensive ability, I don't see any way that there's any team with any three wings that can stop those guys. And then you add to the fact that they have the weak link to the Clippers is their center rotation, but Trez still gives you, like, off the bench, like 16 points, right? He's the leading scorer off the bench. I think he's averaging almost 19. And then you have, Beverly with the typical defense and good shooting. If I was going to draw up a role player in a lab, it would kind of be like Patrick Beverly, where he's a great 3-point shooter and great defender. You have all these, like, I think the Clippers' depth is phenomenal. JaMychal Green really isn't a guy that's played well this season, but he has the capability of playing well. He's a really good role player for them. And he has the potential to be a lot better. So I just think the Clippers have, so that's actually leads me to my question. Who do you guys think has better depth, the Clippers or the Lakers? I'll start with Will.
I think personally, better depth-wise, and I think that something that we haven't mentioned yet that's definitely going to hurt the Lakers a lot is losing Avery Bradley. Talk about just kind of guard depth to an extent, and not that Avery Bradley was that great piece, but just, like you kind of mentioned, they're going to need Rondo. They're going to need to use some of those guards that they don't want to use more. And so depth-wise, I think you got to definitely go with the Clippers at this point. But how much is that going to affect? How much is that going to play effect in the playoffs? We don't know, and that's why, personally, I think that's where the Clippers have over the Lakers. If they were going to kind of make that run and beat the Lakers, because a lot of people have the Lakers at the top, especially because being the 1 seed, I think you would see that extended depth becoming like the biggest factor. But I don't know. Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough is a good question. But I think there's no doubt that the Clippers have a better bench than the Lakers.
Yeah, I think the Clippers definitely have more depth than the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers don't have anybody who equates to Lou Will and Montrez. They just don't. Mm-hmm. And I think the Lakers have the better duo than the Clippers do. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I see standing in the Clippers' way of the finals is who's going to guard Anthony Davis, because Zubac is a fucking chauffeur out there. He's just going to show Anthony Davis the way to the rim. Mm-hmm. It's not Montrez. I don't see doing it. Honestly, they might have to throw fucking Paul George on him, and that's just going to be a shit show. It's going to be a shit show. And you know who Kawhi's going to be guarding, so I don't know. I think it's a 7-game series because I think that's going to be the conference finals. I just don't see the Clippers are deeper, but I don't see the Lakers.
Here's a question. I got a question for you guys. I'll start with you, Will. So, do you think the fact that these teams will have to play each other will make them more tired when they have to play the Bucks? Or whatever Eastern Conference team?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so that's why that's another reasoning for the Bucks, because if these guys meet in the Western Conference Finals, which is kind of the assumption to an extent among everyone, there's no doubt that they're just gonna tear each other apart. And I think I want to make an interesting comparison to what you said about their rotation at the wing position. I think it's interesting because you look at kind of, and I'm not trying to hype up Dwight Howard, but the Lakers kind of
I certainly hope not.
The Lakers have a really good threesome defensively, at least. And then when LeBron's on and Rondo, I mean, they're not bad, just catch and shoot or catching by the rim, but they have a really good rim protection rotation to an extent. And so where that kind of balances out to an extent. And so will it kind of, and like going on your question that you asked, that is going to be a big factor in the Western Conference Finals, because they are going to tear each other apart. And they're going to be definitely, the team coming out of the West is definitely going to be a little bit more worn, I believe, than whoever comes out of the East, more likely the Bucks. And that's, I think, could be where the factor of, okay, did these guys have enough rest, or are these guys playing a crowded schedule? I think that's where a lot of that talk is going to come in. And so, again, what team is going to be able to handle the new factors that come into playing this, extended season the best is probably going to be able the team to come up top. So.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a factor here. I mean, it's a lot like in 2018 when in the West Finals, when the Warriors and Rockets were just exchanging haymakers. The only difference is you're not playing the Cavs in the finals. Yeah. You're going to be playing like the Raptors or the Bucks, a much better team. Or the Celtics, yeah, a much better team than those Cavs were. So it's definitely going to be a factor with one of those teams, whichever one gets to the finals. But it's going to be tough. I mean, I think the finals, we're in for a hell of a finals. So I'm leaning Lakers. I don't want to get too much into the Lakers yet, but yeah, that's definitely a factor.
And so I think now's a good time to move, just for the sake of brevity, let's move off of the Clippers onto a team I think we can agree that's the weak link of these top four, the Toronto Raptors. And Will, I'll start with you. What % chance you have for the Raptors?
I have the Raptors at a 7% chance. Like I said before, I like the Celtics more than them. You know, defending champs. I think they've been a lot better than we expected, especially after losing Kawhi. But I just don't see that translating into the playoff scenario, the playoff battle. I wouldn't be surprised out of all these teams if they kind of kicked across to the side, and that could be due to, I don't know, I feel like the Raptors always are a good regular season team, and they're able to kind of take care of business, whatever it's handled, right? Or wherever it's supposed to be handled. But then once you get into consistent games against these consistently good teams, I feel like that's where the Raptors have always kind of dropped off. And especially this year without Kawhi, I don't know who's going to be that kind of guy that they could lean on to per se to kind of help them carry up, because in the past they tried Mar Rosen and that didn't work. And so last year, obviously, you had Kawhi taking them to it. So like, who's that guy going to be this year? Not Lowry. Sorry. Zach.
Yeah. Look, is it possible for somebody to win Most Improved Player 2 years in a row? Because Pascal Siakam, man.
That's fair.
I think he is unquestionably a first option now. Mm-hmm. I think he is. He does it on both sides. I think overall, a lot of guys had, an impact on that team winning last year, but I think Siakam overall was the second best player on the team. And I think Nick Nurse is unquestionably coach of the year. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know who else comes close to him. I like the Raptors. I think they get to the finals, to be honest. I love Siakam on Giannis. I think they caused a lot of problems for the Bucks. I'm not sure how they did head-to-head this year, but I don't know. My gut feeling, I think that's a 7-game series. Bucks Raptors.
I think the three of us can agree. Bucks Celtics, definitely a 7-game series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I gave the Raptors, and I have the Raptors and the Celtics same odds. I think they're pretty even. I would maybe give a slight edge to Toronto, but it's weird. I'm not from Canada, but I'm kind of a Toronto homer. I love that team. Like, if Caleb Lynn was on the podcast, he'd tell me to get a room with Kyle Lowry. I'm pretty sure he would text me listening to this, telling me to get a room with Kyle Lowry. I love Kyle. I think Kyle Lowry was the second best player on the team last year. I think that he was that good. Like, he won them game 6 of the finals. And
they should have won in 5.
I just think that, yes, but when you have Boogie going off for his one good performance, I just think that the Raptors, I think, I don't know how, I'm kind of in between, like, it's weird. I'm kind of landing in between you guys in your opinions. I kind of am in between you guys when it comes to Siakam as a first option. I think he's like a 1B, right? If he's your 1B, you're great. But 1A, I'm not sure how that's going to go. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's going to be interesting to watch them in the playoffs, how they create shots, right? Is it a lot of Lowry, Siakam pick and roll? Is it a lot of Siakam, like Gasol pick and roll? Siakam's really good at dribbling now. I think that those are valid concerns, but I also think you can look at the team and say, okay, it's plausible that this team could walk to the conference finals because they're that talented. Like, Toronto and Boston are two of the most deep and talented teams in the league. That's going to be one of the most fun series in the playoffs. But Toronto's so talented and so veteran, you could see them just destroying Boston in the second round. I can't see Boston destroying Toronto in the same way, but I definitely don't see them. I don't see it being easy for either of them. Mm-hmm. And I think Toronto is just, they can't stop Giannis, right? Like, they had the trump card last year of Kawhi guarding Giannis. I just don't think, I wouldn't guard him with OG or Pascal, especially since Pascal's so important to your offense. So I think that there's a chance they could make it past the Bucks, but I don't think either of the teams just have anyone that can guard Giannis. And I think that's kind of what ultimately sets them back. Mm-hmm. And so I just don't think Toronto can make it.
Yeah, I mean, these guys lost maybe the best player in the league, the best two-way player in the league, and they didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a fucking beat. So it's unreal.
Yeah, and I think that's just about it for the Raptors, since the last two teams are so huge. obviously we spent a good amount of time talking about the Clippers, but now we're going to talk about the team with Will's favorite player, the Los Angeles Lakers, the top seed in the West. Obviously, seeds really have nothing to do with it anymore because, everything that's going on. There is no, like we brought up earlier, there is no such thing as home court. But Will, I'm guessing this team has the best chance for you of winning the championship. You said the Clippers were too.
Yeah, no doubt. I have them at about 23, 25. I brought it down to 23, but I think with the Lakers is this extended break I think hasn't been good for them personally because I don't know. They were rolling pretty good, especially at the end of the regular season. And then this obviously is going to cut them off from the game physically, but mentally as well. I think there's just them being not the odds-on favorite, but the top two of the league. Everyone's kind of expecting them to head to the finals to an extent. And so I don't know how good that is for the team, let alone LeBron. I think it's just putting more pressure, just adding pressure on the team to do it. But I do have them as the top for a reason. I think there's a bit of a LeBron factor there, my little bit of LeBron bias. But, I mean, they have a good team. I think we've already touched on their bench not being as good as, the Clippers per se, but the 1-2 pop has been able to carry them for at least most of the year so far. And they've had some good pieces. Avery Bradley's going to be gone. But Danny Green's not been bad from, kind of catching and shooting. And so LeBron kind of running the point. He's got a lot of pressure on him this year. I think everyone's expecting him, putting a lot of pressure on him to get in another ring before he's gone. And especially this year, it's looking like it's one of his best chances. And so, I still have them being the favorite, but I'm not gonna lie. I think that the extended break has kind of at least put a little bit more pressure on them, if not hurt their chances a bit.
Yeah, I had the Lakers as my number one team. I thought they were probably the clear favorites to win the title. LeBron was playing unreal. He probably would have had my MVP vote, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I probably would have given him that fifth MVP.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I probably would have. Yeah, I know. I'm feeding your ego, Will, but I would have. I think AD's the best guy he's ever played with.
Yeah.
They got a great coach. I don't think losing Avery Bradley doesn't really hurt them that much. I don't think it hurts them that much.
You think Caruso can replace his minutes?
All right, you got me.
Not on the defensive side.
You got me.
Caruso, that's the thing though. They're replacing him with Caruso, and I mean Caruso's fine.
Well, they're getting JR.
Obviously overhyped.
JR.
Another opportunity for him to ruin a championship of LeBron's.
They did sign Dion, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's got to be fun. That's gonna be fun.
All right in Los Angeles.
Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles need to change the name of their podcast because that's the Knuckleheads team right there. I sound like a 50-year-old sports writer, but good God.
As my grandpa would call them, blockheads. Talk about strip clubs. Those guys at a strip club.
Oh, J.R. Smith, the Henny legend.
Oh,
He doesn't wear a shirt in public. Makes you think he's going to wear one at a strip club.
You guys remember after I don't remember what finals it was, but they lost, and he was just riding the funky duck, and he looked real sad. JR was. It was 2017, I think. I think they, because they got crushed by the Warriors that season. Yeah. And he just was his whole thing was just riding the funky duck, and his head was just down the entire time because he was so depressed after losing that finals. Classic. I don't know. I think the Lakers' depth might do them in. Avery Bradley low key was a real important piece for them.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, he's not like, right, like it's Avery Bradley in the year 2020, but he's still, you know, he's still good at guarding point guards, and they have no one else on their team I trust to do that. Rondo sucks at defense anymore. He can be good. Like Rondo, when Rondo tried, the last time he tried to play defense was when they had that good season in New Orleans.
Yeah.
That was the last time he's tried on defense. I haven't seen him try on defense since then. And bless his heart. But you need to try on defense if you're going to do anything in the league. Now, I think a guy that's actually going to step up for them is KCP. Wow. You know, KCP has actually been really good. He's been really good for them this year. I mean, obviously, you're not going to stick him on, like, I don't know how much I trust him guarding point guards, but he's, you know, he's been a reliable shooter for them. I think if he's their sixth man, I think that's not a bad spot for them, you know, given their other, like Will brought up earlier, their center is real deep. You know, they probably have one of the deeper center rotations in the league between AD, Dwight, and JaVale. But, God, I don't know what you can reasonably expect out of Kuzma.
Yeah.
You know,
nothing.
Kuzma definitely gets the I'm a Laker, so I get overrated bump.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a victim of that. And I just think Kuzma's
nothing.
Kuzma's fine.
He gives them nothing.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if he can give them 15 points, you know, a game, that would be something, right? Like, that's really all you need. But I don't know why he would be the one you keep, but I guess I don't know why they would think they get to keep Ingram. But at the same time, speaking of which, we didn't talk about Ingram in our New Orleans section. Great season. I wanted to shout him out. But
yeah, hell of a season.
He might be candidate for most improved too, but just wanted to say, I don't think the Lakers have I give Lakers 15% chance. I think that there's I'd have them second too. Let's be real. LeBron's the best player. I think LeBron's the best player in the world. You can't count him out until he's done. You know, at this point, I think LeBron's a better basketball player than he has been in any other season of his career. Like, he understands the game better. Is he a worse defender and athlete? Yes. But is he like a smarter player? He's the smartest player in the league. And so I just think I could see him manipulating Anthony Davis to their advantage against the Clippers. But at the same time, I still think the Clippers are just a little bit better. So that's why I have them at 15%.
Yeah, and one thing on KCP, I think as long as he can stay out of house arrest, he could give them a decent impact.
That's the key with KCP.
Well, hey, if he goes on house arrest, it won't be a deal because they'll all be in the same place, so the ankle bracelet won't go off.
Yeah.
Then get him in a halfway house. They'll be fine.
God. All right. I think now's the time. This is the time that I know Zach and I have been waiting for all podcast. The presumptive favorites in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks, sitting there pretty at 53-12. Okay. Historic pace. Giannis, my MVP. I know not Zach Griffith's, and it sounds like he's Will Hogsett's MVP. Unless Zach talked him into LeBron, but I just think I'm curious. Let's just give you the floor. The floor is yours. I'm calling the ISO. Zach, get in the other corner. Don't you dare move.
I just think, and especially because in our personal group chat, we got Ryan Gregory, who I love giving shit to. But you got to remember something about the Bucks, guys. They're playing in the East. They're playing in the Eastern Conference. You know, and don't get me wrong, Giannis is good, MVP candidate. I'm not trying to bash Giannis by saying this, but there's something when you get in the playoffs, you got to flip an extra switch. And, you know, I'm not saying that Giannis isn't that guy, but, you know, that Michael Jordan switch. Zach was giving me a little bit shit earlier in the group chat. He said, the one that LeBron couldn't turn on in 2012 or 2011 gets the Mavericks. I was like, yes, thank you. You know what I'm talking about. That switch. I don't know if Giannis has that switch. You know, I think he's really good. He's really consistent, 30-point, triple-double average damn near in the regular season, right? But like, I don't know if he has enough of the ability to create his own shots, like off the dribble per se. And once you get in the playoffs and they stop calling fouls as much, if you keep going in the lane and you keep going in the lane, like is the ability to adjust kind of is what I'm saying that Giannis doesn't have yet, in my opinion. And then just also the ability to kind of put it all on his shoulders in a playoff scenario. Like, in regular season, when it comes down to it, like I mentioned, he could go and get the ball in the hole and get it fouled. But like in a playoff situation, that just doesn't happen. Like, the teams are not going to let you go in there. They're going to give you an elbow. They're going to foul you before you get to, especially in Giannis's case. And maybe last year could have helped to give him a bit of a chip on his shoulder, give him what he needed, kind of like what LeBron needed in 2012, 2013, after losing the Mavericks, to kind of like, okay, let me make this my game. Maybe he shows up with this playoff series, but yeah, I'm just going to wait on all the Giannis hype. I have them under the the Clippers and Lakers around a 15% chance to winning. I think they have the best chance of getting out of the Eastern Conference Finals. However, everyone's kind of giving the Bucks all the hype, especially, I'm not going to lie, they're going to be a little bit more rested out of the East, but in that moment, and the moment, like we mentioned, might be a little bit less heightened, but in that moment, Giannis just hasn't been able to prove to me that he'd be able to do it. AB?
So because you brought up the free throw attempts thing, so I was curious. So I went and looked up a little guy who's similarly dominant on the inside and also had similar issues missing free throws. That guy's name is Shaquille O'Neal. Okay. Do you want me to read you the free throw attempts for his seasons? Okay. Yeah. In the season they made the finals in Orlando, he shot 261 free throws in 21 games. I'm going to repeat that number. 261 free throws in 21 games. Okay. 99-2000. The year they played the Pacers in the finals when he was with the Lakers. Do you want to guess how many free throws this man shot?
300.
Pretty damn close. 296 in 23 games.
Oh, my.
So, yes, Will, I agree with your larger point that they don't call as many fouls in the playoffs. But when you're inside as much as Giannis is, mm-hmm. I think that he's obviously not going to shoot. He's not going to shoot 296 free throws. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you get to the. I don't know. Hold on. What's the numbers? I have the totals. What's the?
Hey, Alex. I'm curious, Alex. How many did Shaq shoot in the fourth quarter against the Kings in 2002? I'm curious.
Oh, here we go again. Here we go. I don't have that exact number pulled up, Zach.
20, perhaps. 20, I think.
He shot 65% in the 2002 playoffs from the foul line.
Well, he got there plenty of times. So, thanks, Tim. Good old Tim.
He got there. He got to the line 200 times in 16 games in 2001. That's just absurd. But this isn't a Reading Shaq's podcast. This is Reading Shaq Stats podcast. This is a podcast about the current NBA playoffs. I just think that Giannis, because I agree with your overall sentiment that there's concerns about his shot creation. Mm-hmm. I think it's troubling. I think Chris Middleton might be their best shot creator. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what that spells for their future. But I'm not saying your fears are totally unfounded. Mm-hmm. I just think that Giannis is been playing well enough that he might be able to overcome it, but I'm curious to see what Zach feels about that.
I think he has that killer instinct. I mean, I think the thing last year was he ran into Kawhi. That's the only thing that stopped him. And I think the Raptors were probably a better team than the Bucks last year. But I think he has that killer instinct. He's definitely a guy who can get you to the finals, and I think he's a guy you can definitely win a title with. Everyone's knock on him is the three-point shooting, which has improved a little bit, but is still a big question mark, especially in the playoffs. I mean, three-pointers in the regular season is one thing. Playoffs, that's a totally different story. So the thing with the Bucks, I think Middleton is the bigger question mark than Giannis. And, I mean, because Bledsoe's not going to give you anything. you know you're not getting anything from Bledsoe in the playoffs, which I don't know why they gave him that contract. I'm still scratching my head over that a year later, but he's not giving you shit in the playoffs. I think Middleton is the way bigger question mark. I think he's a good second option, but you look at their playoff run last year, they played the Pistons, and then they played totally out of sorts Celtics team. And, you know, of course they swept the Pistons, and I think the Celtics was like a 5-game series or whatever, but I'm not going to hold losing to Kawhi against him, especially when he had a 2-0 lead. I don't have the same concerns, Will. I don't. I think the Bucks are damn near a lock to get to the finals.
I think so. I'm looking at Giannis's playoff stats for his career since I'm not counting that first season. You know, his second year when they had like Jared Dudley and Ilyasova. You guys remember that team when they somehow made the playoffs? Like when they were really they really shouldn't have been there.
No.
So since he started getting big minutes in the playoffs, he averages 25 points a game, 11 rebounds, 52% from the field, almost 10 foul attempts a game, 5 assists, a steal and a half, and a block and a half a game. So I think, there's concerns, but the first 2 years in the league, when they were in Milwaukee, him and Middleton were playing 2-on-5, and they were like destroying the Celtics. I don't know if you guys remember that, but they were just him and Middleton destroyed the Celtics the first 2 times they played them in the playoffs.
7-game series.
And it was like, but the Celtics won because they actually had 3 other guys that were good in their starting lineup. The Bucks just were playing. They were just doing Giannis and Middleton and rolling out Thon Maker.
Yeah. Again, Bledsoe, man. Bledsoe. Nothing.
Bledsoe. So do you guys think that they would be better off if they started George Hill?
Fuck yeah. Yes. Bledsoe gives you nothing. He's not even a question mark. You just know you're not getting anything.
I think you gotta expect nothing from Bledsoe, and then leave the slightest tinker of hope that maybe he does give you something. I don't like you said. I don't think you could. I'd probably start George Hill over him. Just consistency in the lineup. Bledsoe. Every time he's in, he's good for what the hell is that? At least one of them. So George Hill. Don't get me wrong. He's had his fair share of mistakes, but just consistently, I'd probably take Hill.
He gets away with one mistake. The free throw. I didn't forget, George.
Oh, God.
I didn't forget.
Who would?
Do you guys know what Eric Bledsoe shot in the Toronto series last year from the field?
30.
Miserable?
30s. In the 30s. He
shot 29.4. His field goal percentage, 29.4 on 11 attempts a game.
Yeah, there you go. Nothing. Big nothing.
He shot 5 threes a game at 17%.
And I don't want to hear the defense that he made all defensive first team, because that's a regular season thing. So I don't want to hear that shit.
My contention is I think against Miami he would be able to score, but you're right, against the other teams, Toronto's guard defense is top notch. Yeah. So of course they were going to shut him down. I think I'm going to look at the Boston series because I'm curious about that. So let's X out of that. So the Boston series went 5 games. I was surprised about that. How did Milwaukee lose the first game? But okay, he shot 43% from the field against the Celtics, which it's fine.
Yeah, that's all right.
Not the greatest, but I think if he gives you that through the whole playoffs, then I think they have a chance to succeed. Yeah. But so, Zach, I don't think we ever got your rankings. Can you give us your top 4?
Yeah, so from 4 to 1, I had Raptors, Bucks, Clippers, Lakers. And
then, Will, could you give the top 3 percentages again?
Going with 4, I had the Celtics above, Celtics at 4, and then Bucks, Clippers, Lakers.
And then I had the Celtics I had Celtics and Bucks at 5%. I had the Bucks and Lakers at 15 and Clippers at 25. I think this has been a really, really fun podcast. You know, we did a lot of previewing of the playoffs. I think, you know, I guess one last just real quick question. I need a yes or no answer. I'll start with Will. Do they finish the season?
No. No, I think there's too much. I think there's too many factors in the air. Would I love to see it happen? Yeah. But, like, we're how many weeks away? Still 2 weeks away almost, 3 weeks away, and we're already having a lot of issues. I say no, as much as I hate to say it, no. Zach?
Yeah, it's going to take some unbelievable effort to make this thing happen. I mean, I just think if one guy gets COVID during a game, everybody's fucked. So I don't see the point in risking it. I know there's a lot of money on the table. You know, the NBA is all about money, which is why they put this whole thing together. So I'm not seeing it. I'm going to say no. Too big of a risk. I don't see. Plus, you're throwing off the schedule for next season. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing it, man. I'm going to say no. Too big of a risk with COVID.
I as well am going to say no because, frankly, like Zach said, this is clearly about money. This is really irresponsible. Mm-hmm. But, you know, at the same time, you have to feel like, okay, the players are at risk of getting their CBA torn up and getting a whole lot of basketball-related income taken away from their contracts, which will end up being worse for the sport. So, you know, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation here. I just think that, like Zach said, someone gets it and they play against someone. It's like basketball is a contact sport. Yeah. You know, picks, you know, boxing out.
And they're sharing the ball.
Mean, the Pacers don't. Right.
Like, everybody touches the ball. One guy gets COVID during a game. Everybody else who's been in the game is fucked.
You guys ever hear of social distancing during a basketball game?
Yeah, well, it's when Ben Simmons passes the ball and hides under the basket.
Oh, I think that'll be a good note to close it out on. I'm going to thank you guys so much. That was a good note. Go listen to Zach's podcast. Zach has a lot of fun podcasts. You know, the week we're recording this, we put out, actually just a couple hours ago, we put out his 25th anniversary movie podcast with him and his newly minted co-host. I'm glad that that's official. It was basically official, but Brett Sexton, really great guy. Glad he's on the network. We'll get you a podcast soon, but where can the people follow you on Twitter?
WH Hogsett at WH Hogsett. Come here.
Zach, give him your Twitter as well.
Yep, I'm Zach Griffith 17. You can find me there. And we got Raimi's Spider-Man series coming out this week.
Ooh, yes.
Or recording this week. Raimi's Spider-Man series. So there you go.
Coming out the week of July 4th, or the July 5th, excuse me. It'll be out sometime that week. And I want to thank everyone for listening, and I want to thank you both. You both were awesome guests. This was a fun episode. So again, thank everyone for listening.